I just know my baby called me on the phone, FaceTimed me, and she said, "Mom, help me." And by that time, he hung her phone up, and that's the last time I heard her voice.
A teen's life violently taken away by someone family says she trusted. This once quiet, humble neighborhood still in shock by a shooting that took the life of 16-year-old Lauren Juma, a student at Nimitz High School.
This was a good neighborhood, quiet. We don't have crime. So now when you look us up, the only crime you have is a murder, and it's a child.
Look, it's past 1 o'clock in the morning out in Humble, Texas, right? And we got this 16-year-old girl, Lauren Juma, sitting on her phone, and you can hear the fear in her voice. She's trying so hard not to break down, you feel me? She hits up her big sister, Karika, and she's like, "Listen, you gotta come get me right now, like I'm not playing."
Karika can tell something ain't right. She asks what's going on.
And Lauren, she just says he's acting real weird. Please just come. Now, here's the thing that's gonna mess you up. When she says he, she ain't talking about no stranger who broke in or nothing like that. Nay, she's talking about Van Henry Brisbane, her mama's boyfriend. The man who's been living up in their house for 5 whole years. 5 years, y'all. The man who's supposed to be protecting her while her mama, Lori Young, is out of town handling business. But tonight, man, tonight everything about to go left, everything about to fall apart, because trust is about to turn deadly. Before we get deeper into this story, if you're new to serial true crime, go ahead and hit that subscribe button real quick, drop a like on this video, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from, because Lauren's story, this could happen to anybody. This could happen in your neighborhood, your family, so we got to talk about it. All right, let's get back into it. Lori, that's Lauren's mama. She's 2 hours away down in Austin for work. She got no idea what's happening back at the house. No clue that her baby girl is about to make a FaceTime call that's going to haunt her for the rest of her days. The call connects, right? And Lauren's terrified face pops up on that screen. She tells her mama he's in her room in the dark. She wants her mama to tell him to get out. For just a second, it looks like maybe, just maybe, her mama's voice might fix the situation. Brisbane, he backs up a little bit, but then everything shifts. Lauren's voice cuts through again, and this time there's pure panic in it. She says her mama, he has a gun. Then the line goes dead. Just like that, nothing. Karika, she's already flying through them empty streets, calling 911, telling the operator her mom's boyfriend is holding her sister captive. Deputies start racing toward Canton Trace Lane, but see, inside that house, time is running out fast, real fast. What happens in the next few minutes is going to shatter this family completely. It's going to expose a truth so twisted, so messed up, it'll have you questioning everybody you think you know, everybody you think you can trust. Because see, the most dangerous monsters? They don't break into your home. They already got the keys. They already sitting at your dinner table. They already living in your house. Now look, when somebody you trust starts acting weird, when do you stop making excuses for them and start running? That's the question we gotta ask ourselves. Because Lauren Juma, she trusted the wrong person. And it cost her everything, her whole life. Stay with me, because this story gets darker than you can even imagine right now. Lauren was a sophomore over at Nimitz High School. She just made the cheerleading squad. And man, this girl had dreams bigger than Texas itself. She wanted to serve in the Air Force or maybe go into law enforcement. She wanted to protect people, serve her country, make a difference. Her father, Sajjad Juma, he described her as a very wonderful, loving, caring person who loved everybody and everybody loved her. Now here's what makes this whole story so twisted, so hard to understand. Lauren wasn't killed by some stranger. She wasn't killed by some random dude who followed her home or broke into the house. Nah, she was murdered by Van Henry Brisbane, a man who'd been part of her family for 5 years. Think about that for a second. 5 years of watching Lauren grow from an 11-year-old child into a 16-year-old young woman. 5 years of her mother, Lori Young, believing she'd found somebody who genuinely cared about her daughter, somebody she could trust with her baby. Brisbane, he seemed like the ideal stepfather figure. Even his own niece would later say he loved Lauren and Lauren loved the life out of him. But here's the thing about predators, and this is what we got to understand. They're experts at playing the long game. They know how to wait. They know how to build trust. They know how to make you feel safe while they're planning something completely different. On April 29, 2022, Lori went down to Austin for work training. Just a regular business trip, nothing special about it. She left her 16-year-old daughter at home with the man she trusted most, the man she'd been with for 5 years. Now, what Lori didn't know, what nobody in that family knew, was that Brisbane had decades-old criminal charges from Phoenix and Chicago, a whole past he'd kept buried, a history that might have changed everything if they'd known about it, if somebody had just looked into this man's background.
Lauren, she had no idea that her mother's work trip would become the opportunity he'd been waiting for. She had no clue that April 29, 2022 would be her last day alive, her last day on this earth.
That night, something feels off. You know that feeling when something just ain't right? The house is too quiet. Then she hears it. Footsteps in the hallway, coming closer.
Lauren's bedroom door creaks open, and there he is, standing in her doorway. Not saying nothing, just watching, just staring at her.
And for the first time in 5 years, Lauren feels afraid, real afraid. She grabs her phone and calls Karika, telling her he's being really weird and wanted her to pick her up. Now those words, they would haunt Karika forever. Because weird was Lauren's code for something's very wrong. Something ain't right. Karika doesn't hesitate. She's like, I'm coming to get you right now. I'm on my way. But Lauren, she needs her mama too. So 165 miles away in Austin, Lori's phone buzzes. It's after 1 a.m. And that's when Lori sees him through that FaceTime camera. Van Henry Brisbane, standing inside Lauren's bedroom in the dark. Just standing there. Lauren tells her mama he's standing inside her room in the dark and wanted her mother to tell him to get out. Lori, she tries to take control of the situation from 165 miles away. She tells Van to get out of Lauren's room now. For a moment it works. Brisbane steps back. He backs up. But then Lauren's voice cracks with pure terror, pure fear. She says, Mom, he has a gun. The screen goes black, just like that. Nothing. Karika is already racing through them empty streets, her phone pressed to her ear, calling 911. The operator's asking questions, but Karika, she's just trying to get there, trying to save her sister. Deputies are speeding through the night, sirens wailing, lights flashing. And inside that house, Lauren is face to face with a predator who's been waiting 5 years for this exact moment. 5 years of pretending, 5 years of planning.
The question ain't why he snapped. The question is why he waited so long. What was he waiting for?
Harris County deputies, they screech to a halt outside the house at exactly 1:05 a.m. But they're too late. They already too late. The moment their boots hit the pavement, they hear it. Lauren's voice piercing through the night air, screaming for help, screaming for somebody to save her. Then comes a sound that will haunt these officers forever. The sound that'll wake them up at night for years to come. Bang! One shot rings out. Then a second one. Bang! Karika, she's standing frozen on the lawn. She's been there for exactly 3 minutes. Just 3 minutes. She would later recall, tears streaming down her face. I was there for 3 minutes before I heard 2 gunshots go off. She said, I could just remember running up to the house and officers telling me to go back to my car. Can you imagine being right there and not being able to do nothing? Hearing your sister's last moments and not being able to save her. The deputies, they approach the front door, weapons drawn, not knowing what they're about to walk into. That's when the door opens. Van Henry Brisbane steps outside, and look at this. No panic on his face, no fear, no remorse, nothing.
He looks at them, armed deputies, and says 5 words that chill everybody to the bone. He says, you'll do what you all have to do.
But here's what makes this moment even more disturbing, even more sick. As Brisbane walks toward the deputies, they notice something that makes their stomachs turn. He's pulling up his pants, adjusting his clothing, like he just finished something, like he just got done doing something. They push through the front door. The house is eerily quiet now, just the heavy silence of death, that silence that hits different. They find Lauren in her bedroom. Lauren Juma lies dead from multiple gunshot wounds. But that ain't all. Her pants have been pulled down to her knees. The 9mm handgun that ended her life is lying nearby on the floor. And suddenly, everything becomes clear. This wasn't just a murder. This was something much worse, something much more evil.
Outside, Kirky is being comforted by officers. She was 3 minutes too late, just 3 minutes that cost Lauren her life. 3 minutes that changed everything.
Meanwhile, 165 miles away in Austin, Lori Young is frantically calling anybody who will answer, calling family, calling friends, calling the police. She doesn't know yet that her worst nightmare has come true, that her baby girl is gone. Investigators, they request a sexual assault examination. And when the results come back, the evidence is overwhelming. He didn't just murder a 16-year-old girl, he tried to rape her first. And when she fought back, when she called for help, when she refused to be a victim, he silenced her forever. Let that sink in for a minute. This man lived with this family for 5 years. 5 years of building trust. 5 years of being part of their lives. And this is what he was planning the whole time. Monday morning comes around, Harris County Courthouse. Van Henry Brisbane shuffles in wearing an orange jumpsuit, shackles on his ankles. The judge had initially set his bond at $1 million, but then prosecutor Edward Applebaum drops a bombshell. He tells the court something that changes everything. The prosecutor said on Friday Juma was found dead with her clothes in disarray. They go on to say that Brisbane was seen pulling up and adjusting his pants while coming out of their home. After 2 shots were heard, bond doubled. $2 million, just like that, because now this is capital murder, a charge that carries life in prison, without parole. No getting out. While investigators process the scene, they start digging deeper into Brisbane's background, and what they find makes everybody's blood run cold. Van Henry Brisbane has decades-old criminal charges from Phoenix and Chicago. For 5 years, this family welcomed a man with a criminal past into their home. For 5 years, he was building toward this moment, planning this moment, and they had no idea, none at all. The family, they're in shock. They're asking themselves how they didn't see this, how they didn't know. But that's the thing about predators. They're good at hiding, they're experts at deception. But the most heartbreaking moment comes when Brisbane's own niece takes the stand. She's wearing a shirt with Lauren's picture on it, Lauren's face right there on her chest. Through tears, she says, "I love my uncle to death, I swear I do, but I will never be able to understand how he did something like this to Lauren. He loved Lauren and Lauren loved the life out of him. How he could take her life from her, I can never understand it." Then she says something even more powerful, something we all need to hear. She says we have to be accountable for their actions. If we don't hold people accountable for the things that they do wrong, then people will continue to do wrong. You can't determine what's right or what's wrong based off of a blood relation. Even his own family is turning against him, his own blood, because they know what he did was unforgivable, inexcusable. And here's what we gotta remember. Lauren fought back. She called for help. She refused to be a silent victim. And even though it cost her life, her courage ensured that Brisbane would face justice, that he wouldn't get away with this. October 17th, 2024 rolls around, nearly 2.5 years after Lauren's murder. Van Henry Brisbane, now 62 years old, faces his final judgment. 9 days of evidence, 9 days of testimony so disturbing that even seasoned prosecutors, people who've seen the worst of humanity, struggle to present it. Assistant District Attorney Katie Warren stands before the jury. She tells them, "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you're about to hear body cam recordings from that night. Lauren screams for help, her cries of anguish, and then gunshots." She continues, "These recordings were not easy to listen to, but they tell the story of a young woman's final moments and the monster who took them from her." The courtroom falls silent as the body cam footage begins. What the jury hears next is something no human should ever witness. No human should ever have to hear. Lauren's voice, terrified and desperate, pleading for her life. Then the gunshots that ended everything, that ended a beautiful young life full of potential.
Some jurors are crying. Some can't even look up because what they're hearing ain't just evidence. It's a young girl's final moments of terror.
Prosecutor Gina Gilmore addresses the jury with the truth. The hard truth. She says Van Henry Brisbane spent 5 years gaining this family's trust, 5 years positioning himself for this moment. He didn't snap, he didn't lose control, he planned this. Let that sink in. This wasn't a moment of rage, this wasn't a split-second decision, this was planned, calculated, evil. After 9 grueling days of testimony, of evidence, of horror, the jury goes to deliberate and guilty of capital murder. You can hear Lori Young sobbing in the courtroom, a mother's worst nightmare confirmed, her baby girl taken by a man she trusted, a man she let into her home. Karika sits stone-faced, knowing that no verdict can undo the trauma of hearing her sister's final screams. No verdict can bring Lauren back. No verdict can erase what happened. Life in prison without the possibility of parole, no chance of freedom, no chance of redemption, no chance of ever hurting another family. He's gonna die in prison. Harris County District Attorney Kim Ogg doesn't mince words. She doesn't sugarcoat nothing. She says this defendant was a predator with a gun, and his choice to hurt a young girl and take her life was senseless and horrific. He not only took a promising young woman's life, his actions have destroyed a family. And that's the truth right there. A family destroyed, a mother who'll never see her daughter graduate, a sister who'll never stop hearing those gunshots, a father who lost his baby girl. Lauren will never graduate high school. She'll never walk across that stage in her cap and gown. She'll never join the Air Force like she dreamed. She'll never become the police officer she wanted to be. She'll never protect people the way she wanted to. All because a 60-year-old man decided his twisted desires were more important than a young woman's life, more important than her dreams, more important than her family, more important than everything. Here's the question that keeps everybody awake at night, the question that haunts this family. How did nobody see this coming? Look, there were signs. If we're being honest, there were signs. Brisbane waited until Lori was 165 miles away. He waited until it was just him and Lauren. He waited until there was nobody around to protect her, nobody to stop him. Lauren told her mom that Brisbane was standing inside her room in the dark. Think about that. A 60-year-old man entering a 16-year-old girl's bedroom at 1 a.m. without permission. That's not normal stepfather behavior. That's not protective behavior. That's predator behavior. And Brisbane's criminal history. Those decades-old charges weren't just minor infractions, they weren't just traffic tickets or nothing like that, but the family didn't know, because predators are experts at hiding their past, they're experts at reinventing themselves. But here's the hardest truth we gotta face. Sometimes there are no obvious warning signs. Sometimes predators are just that good at pretending to be normal, at pretending to care, at pretending to be part of the family. But there's one warning sign that should never be ignored. Never. When a young person calls for help at 1 a.m. saying somebody's acting weird, believe them. Take it seriously. Act immediately. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Don't question it. Because Lauren Juma called for help, she reached out to the people she trusted most, her sister, her mama, and they tried to save her. Lord knows they tried, but they were just 3 minutes too late. 3 minutes that changed everything.
Lauren Juma should be 18 years old right now. As I'm recording this, she should be graduating from Nimitz High School, getting ready for Air Force basic training, starting her life, chasing her dreams.
Instead, her family visits a grave, they bring flowers to a cemetery, they talk to a headstone instead of their daughter, their sister. But here's what Van Henry Brisbane couldn't kill. Here's what he couldn't take away. Lauren's impact on the people who loved her, the memory of who she was, the lessons we can learn from her tragedy. Her story has become a warning that could save other lives, that could prevent this from happening to another family. Families are having harder conversations about the people they let into their homes, about the people they trust with their children. Parents are paying closer attention when their children say somebody's acting weird, when their kids express discomfort. And maybe, just maybe, that's how a 16-year-old girl who dreamed of protecting people finally gets to fulfill her mission, not in an Air Force uniform, but in the lives saved by the lessons learned from her tragedy, in the families who pay closer attention, in the parents who believe their children when something feels wrong. Here's the question that should haunt all of us, the question we need to ask ourselves tonight. If a teenager in your life called you at 1 a.m. saying somebody was acting weird, would you drop everything and go to them immediately? Would you believe them? Would you act? Because Lauren Juma did everything right, she called for help, she trusted her family, she fought for her life, she refused to be a silent victim. The system failed her. The background checks failed her. The fact that nobody knew about Brisbane's criminal history failed her. But her story doesn't have to fail the next victim. Her story can save lives if we learn from it, if we listen when young people say something's wrong, if we do background checks on people we let into our homes, if we trust our instincts when something feels off. Van Henry Brisbane is going to spend the rest of his life in prison. He's going to die behind bars, and that's exactly where he belongs. But that
doesn't bring Lauren back. That doesn't undo the trauma. That doesn't heal the wounds.
what can heal, what can make a difference is if we make sure this never happens again. If we protect the young people in our lives. If we believe them when they say they're scared. If we act immediately when they call for help. Lauren Juma was 16 years old. She had her whole life ahead of her. Dreams to chase, people to protect, a difference to make.
Don't let her death be in vain.
If this story affected you, if it made you think, hit that like button, share this video with somebody who needs to hear it, and drop a comment letting us know your thoughts. Let us know if there are other cases you want us to cover here on Serial True Crime. Remember, the most dangerous people aren't always strangers. Sometimes they're the ones already living in your house, the ones you trust, the ones who have the keys. Stay safe out there, protect your family, and always, always believe when somebody says they're scared. Rest in peace, Lauren Juma. You deserved so much better. This is Serial True Crime. Until next time.